time for you guys to check her out. This is her shot at the semifinals. Here's Courtney Hadwin.
In a world saturated with talent shows and fleeting viral stars, few contestants have managed to leave the kind of seismic impact Courtney Hadwin did the moment she stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage. But beneath the spotlight and standing ovations lies a far more complex and concealed story that producers never fully revealed. Courtney's rise wasn't just a tale of an underdog becoming a global sensation overnight. It was layered with strategy, pain, and a strange kind of brilliance that blurred the line between authenticity and performance. Viewers across the globe remember the 14-year-old British girl who appeared nervous, almost awkward, barely able to make eye contact with the judges, only to explode seconds later into a powerhouse of raw energy and unfiltered soul, channeling the spirit of Janis Joplin with a voice and stage presence that seemed to erupt from a different era. The shock on Simon Cowell's face, the disbelief in Howie Mandel's voice, the golden confetti raining down after a jaw-dropping performance, it was all perfect television. But what audiences didn't see was the years of training, past competitions, and prior fame that were carefully kept in the shadows, leading some to ask, was Courtney really the shy newcomer AGT portrayed her to be? Or was her character part of a crafted narrative for ratings gold? Even more startling was how this overnight discovery had already built a quiet but impressive resume in the UK entertainment scene. And yet, AGT's presentation made no mention of her time on The Voice Kids UK, her viral performances, or the dedicated vocal coaching she had received since childhood. Was it deception or just good storytelling? Courtney's AGT debut was more than just a performance. It was a carefully controlled media moment that worked because it played on surprise, mystery, and transformation, leaving millions to feel they had just witnessed the birth of a star. But what if that star had been burning all along, just waiting for the right stage and the right narrative? The truth about Courtney Hadwin's fame isn't just what we saw under the lights, it's what we weren't told that makes her story so astonishing. And as we dig deeper, the secrets behind her meteoric rise begin to unravel in ways even her biggest fans never imagined. Long before the world knew her name, before the stage lights and roaring applause, Courtney Hadwin was just a quiet girl from the small village of Hesleden in northeast England, a place so ordinary no one could have predicted it would produce a voice that would electrify millions. Born on July 6, 2004, to Anne-Marie and Paul Hadwin, Courtney was the eldest of 3 siblings, and her love for music began at just 5 years old, singing around the house and humming to whatever played on the radio. But this wasn't just a childhood phase. Her father noticed early on that music wasn't just something she enjoyed, it was something she needed, something that poured out of her as naturally as breathing. Despite growing up far from any major city or entertainment hub, Courtney's family supported her passion with relentless dedication. She enrolled in multiple music schools, including Shotton Hall Theatre School, Cates School of Music, and Julie Miles Vocal Ovation. These were not just weekend hobby classes, these were serious training grounds, and Courtney took them as seriously as a professional. She even performed publicly to raise money for her own lessons, singing on street corners and in local venues, driven by a hunger far beyond her years. Her grandfather once said she worked with vocal coaches with an intensity that left grown performers in awe. It was here, away from the glamour and cameras, that Courtney developed not just her technical ability, but the fearless stage presence that would later stun Simon Cowell. But perhaps the most surprising part of her journey is who she looked up to. While most kids her age were fans of Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande, Courtney idolized the legends James Brown, Janis Joplin, Little Richard, Mick Jagger, artists known for wild energy, soul, and emotional rawness. She studied them, mimicked their grit, and then molded those influences into something entirely her own. By the time she was 11, she had already performed in Teen Star UK, reaching the grand finale. Her version of Make You Feel My Love and Say Something drew comparisons to seasoned professionals. One of her schoolmates would later recall how she couldn't even walk down the hallway without being recognized. To the outside world, she was still just a kid from Hartlepool, but to anyone paying close attention, the signs were already there. Courtney Hadwin wasn't a manufactured miracle. She was a storm slowly building force, rehearsing in silence, waiting for the moment to strike with thunder. Before Courtney Hadwin stunned America, she had already stepped into the limelight on one of the UK's biggest talent stages, The Voice Kids UK, a fact conveniently omitted from America's Got Talent storyline. In 2017, at just 13, Courtney auditioned with Tina Turner's Nutbush City Limits, a performance that instantly won over Judge Danny Jones, who turned his chair in seconds and later praised her stage presence as something out of another dimension. Courtney didn't just survive the competition, she thrived in it. She battled through rounds with fierce confidence, performing James Brown's I Got You, I Feel Good, and ultimately belting out the Dreamgirls classic and I Am Telling You I'm Not Going with such raw emotion that she brought audiences to their feet. Yet, despite reaching the finals and gaining a sizable following, she didn't win. And perhaps that was the twist of fate she needed. Because what came next wasn't a step down, it was a strategic reset. Most child performers would ride the buzz of one show, maybe attempt a few local gigs, and fade back into anonymity. But Courtney? She used it as a stepping stone. Her popularity from The Voice Kids landed her opening spots at major festivals, including opening for Sister Sledge at South Tyneside Festival. Even back then, people could sense there was something different about her. This wasn't just a kid with a nice voice, this was someone channeling the spirits of rock and soul legends through a 13-year-old's body. And while she was already quietly becoming a rising star in the UK, she and her team were plotting something far more ambitious. Instead of sticking to her homeland, Courtney had her eyes set on a bigger stage, a bolder leap, and a chance to shock the world all over again. But what no one could have guessed was how deeply personal this move would become, and how much criticism it would stir. Fame comes with a price, and for Courtney Hadwin, that price was brutal, relentless, and often hidden behind computer screens and school walls. Long before she dazzled America, and even during her UK performances, Courtney was already fighting a silent war with bullying that most people never saw. While fans praised her unique raspy tone and electrifying stage persona, some peers mocked her voice, labeling her a shouter, saying she screamed rather than sang. Online forums and comment sections erupted with ridicule, calling her an act, questioning her authenticity, even accusing her of faking her shyness. But the most heartbreaking part wasn't online. It was in the very school hallways she had once confidently walked through. Classmates who once cheered for her started taunting her. They weren't used to her old school sound, and rather than celebrating her individuality, they targeted it. She was called names, told she sounded like a boy, laughed at for the very thing that made her special. Her grandfather revealed that some of the worst cruelty came after her America's Got Talent debut, when the stakes were higher, the exposure was greater, and the haters multiplied. And yet, Courtney never lashed out. She never clapped back on social media or broke down publicly. Instead, she chose resilience. She buried herself in her music. Her mother, though heartbroken watching the pain unfold, said it best: "How can I not support her if she's brave enough to ignore it?" And her father, echoing the wisdom of survival, reminded her that even the biggest stars like Ed Sheeran had haters, and the internet only gave cowards louder voices. Courtney's ability to stand tall amid this toxic storm became one of the most inspiring yet least talked about parts of her story. Because while her voice made headlines, it was her silence in the face of cruelty that revealed the true depth of her strength. In a move that baffled many and sparked a storm of questions, Courtney Hadwin turned her back on Britain's Got Talent, the logical next step after her success on The Voice Kids UK, and instead made a beeline for America's Got Talent. For a girl barely in her teens, this was a bold, high-risk gamble. But as it turns out, this wasn't a whim, it was a calculated strike. In interviews, Courtney explained that she didn't just want recognition, she wanted global recognition, and for that, there was only one stage big enough: AGT. She called it the biggest show in the world, a place where legends are born and where the stakes are sky high. It was more than geography, it was ambition on a scale few could understand. Her idols, from Janis Joplin to James Brown, weren't just American, they represented the kind of gritty, soulful, unapologetic artistry that Courtney admired. So while many thought she was chasing fame, what she was actually chasing was legacy. But that decision came with heat. Some critics accused her of skipping the queue, of trying to play the system by jumping from one show to another. Some even called it cheating. But what they failed to see was that Courtney wasn't playing games, she was playing chess. Every move was deliberate, every risk calculated. She wasn't just a singer anymore, she was a strategist building a brand that extended far beyond her small English village. And when she finally landed on that AGT stage, nerves and all, it wasn't by accident. It was the next move in a plan years in the making. And as we would soon see, it was a move that would send shockwaves through the entertainment world. Nothing in Courtney Hadwin's life would ever be the same after that one unforgettable night in 2018. She walked onto the America's Got Talent stage wearing a plain jacket, shy smile, and visible nerves, introducing herself as a soft-spoken 14-year-old from England. The judges barely knew what to expect until the music dropped. What followed was a transformation so dramatic it left everyone in shock. She tore into Otis Redding's Hard to Handle with a force that shook the room. Her limbs moved like she was possessed. Her voice growled with a bluesy rasp that belonged in a smoky jazz club, not from the mouth of a timid teenager. Simon Cowell was stunned. "You're like a lion," he said, eyes wide. But it was Howie Mandel who made history that night. So blown away by her performance, he slammed the golden buzzer, sending Courtney straight to the live shows in a flurry of gold confetti and audience hysteria. The video of that performance spread like wildfire, 50 million views in 5 months, 200 million by the end of the year. Media outlets around the world called her the reincarnation of Janis Joplin. Twitter exploded, fans were obsessed, and AGT had found its newest icon. But here's what most people didn't know. Courtney wasn't surprised. She knew she was ready. That performance wasn't luck. It was the moment she had prepared for her entire life. Years of training, years of mockery, years of rejection. All of it had led to that single explosive audition. And though she was still just a teenager, that night proved one thing with brutal clarity. Courtney Hadwin wasn't just competing, she was arriving. As Courtney's stardom soared, whispers began to surface. Was she truly the awkward, soft-spoken teen America saw on stage? Or was it all a carefully orchestrated performance? Some fans noticed the contrast between her timid speaking voice and her explosive stage persona. Others dug up clips of her previous UK appearances and accused her of acting shy to manipulate the judges. But those closest to her fiercely defended her character. Her family, her mentors, even childhood friends swore she'd always been quiet and reserved off stage, someone who preferred bouncing on inflatable castles over talking to strangers. And they insisted her transformation wasn't fake, it was musical possession. When the beat started, something inside her flipped. She wasn't pretending, she was channeling something bigger than herself. But still, the rumors refused to die. Critics claimed AGT producers deliberately edited her to appear more innocent, more humble, more marketable. That her narrative had been polished for TV. That maybe, just maybe, America had been sold a story. But here's the twist. Courtney never denied being shy. In fact, she embraced it. She wanted her performances to speak louder than her interviews. She wasn't seeking sympathy. She was seeking artistic freedom. And in that sense, she wasn't a fraud. She was a mystery, one that viewers couldn't look away from. And while debates over her authenticity raged on, Courtney continued to do what she did best. Step on stage, light it on fire, and leave everyone questioning how someone so small could carry a voice so massive. When Courtney Hadwin didn't take home the grand prize on America's Got Talent, millions of fans were stunned. How could someone who lit up the stage with every performance, someone who got a golden buzzer and went viral worldwide, not win the show? But what many didn't realize was that Courtney's journey didn't end with a trophy. It evolved into something even more valuable: longevity. In the AGT finale, she performed alongside British rock band The Struts, belting out "Piece of My Heart" with ferocious confidence. The crowd erupted, and the judges once again stood in awe. Though the title went to magician Shen Lim, Courtney was far from forgotten. She was invited to perform with Shen Lim in a series of exclusive Las Vegas shows at the Paris Hotel and Casino, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that most finalists never get. From November 2nd through 4th, 2018, she delivered 5 unforgettable performances, solidifying her presence as not just a contestant, but a bona fide entertainer. And just when critics assumed she'd disappear like so many viral acts before her, she made an even bolder move, returning to the AGT stage for America's Got Talent, The Champions. But this time, she didn't come back with a cover song. She performed an original piece, Pretty Little Thing, at just 14 years old. It was a signal to the world that she wasn't content with being a cover artist. She was stepping into songwriting, into storytelling, into artistry. That decision was both risky and revolutionary. Many thought she'd ride the wave of Janis Joplin tributes forever, but Courtney had other plans. She was no longer just the kid with the big voice. She was becoming the kind of artist who could control her own narrative, push her own sound, and take risks others her age wouldn't dare attempt. And in doing so, she proved something far more powerful than winning a trophy. She proved that her career wasn't a moment, it was a movement. After conquering AGT stages, Courtney Hadwin wasted no time in building the foundation for a serious music career, one that would demand respect far beyond the world of reality television. In October 2019, she released her first EP titled The Cover Sessions, a raw and emotional collection that took chart-topping pop hits and flipped them on their heads with her signature raspy vocals and emotional depth. With haunting renditions of songs like Sign of the Times by Harry Styles, Old Town Road by Lil Nas X, Sucker by the Jonas Brothers, and Someone You Loved by Louis Capaldi, she demonstrated that she wasn't just a performer, she was a storyteller. Fans and critics alike were floored. Her interpretations were full of grit, heartbreak, rebellion, everything her age suggested she shouldn't yet understand, but somehow did. People began to describe her as having a voice and soul decades older than her body. But this was no accident. Courtney have spent years studying the greats, mimicking their spirit but refusing to copy their sound. And now, with her own voice, her own control, and her own stories, she was finally showing the world what she was truly capable of. But there was something deeper happening too. The EP wasn't just a commercial release, it was a declaration, a signal that she wasn't going to rely on talent show fame forever. She was willing to take the slower, more grueling path of a real artist, crafting songs, building a catalog, earning respect one lyric at a time. In a world obsessed with overnight fame, Courtney was proving she had the patience, the work ethic, and the heart to go the distance. And while she was still young, her artistry was aging like wine, complex, bold, and only getting better with time. Behind Courtney Hadwin's powerhouse vocals and viral success lies a quieter, more painful story, one of pressure, loneliness, and the emotional toll that fame takes on a young mind. While the world saw the glittering highs, golden buzzers, standing ovations, record-breaking YouTube views, what it didn't see were the sleepless nights, the anxiety, and the fear of not being enough. Fame didn't give Courtney the validation she thought it would. Instead, it magnified her insecurities, exposed her to judgment on an unimaginable scale, and forced her to grow up faster than she was ready for. The spotlight was both a gift and a curse, opening doors to opportunities while also making her a target for critics, bullies, and doubters. As the noise grew louder, Courtney had to learn how to protect her peace. She became more private, more cautious, stepping away from social media and focusing entirely on music. Even as fans clamored for new songs or updates, she refused to rush. She wanted her next move to be meaningful, not manufactured. In a world where most viral stars flame out, Courtney quietly chose the long game. She surrounded herself with people who truly supported her, cut out toxic voices, and leaned into the one thing that never failed her: the music. And while we don't see her on every red carpet or in every headline, the truth is, she's still writing her story. Every chord she plays, every note she sings, every lyric she pens is part of a larger journey most fans will only understand in hindsight. Because Courtney Hadwin isn't just a performer, she's a survivor. And if there's one thing her story teaches us, it's that the real battle isn't getting famous, it's staying whole while the world tries to tear you apart.